In this episode of P&Q, I'm trapped at home by scaffolding, and I mention Yo, what's going on, YouTubers, gamers and hobbyists? Welcome to another episode of P&Q, the question and answer series where you get to ask me questions or put comments to me and I respond the following week. Now you can do this one of 3 ways. 2 ways are easy, the third way is a little bit harder. One, you can leave your comment or question down below in that comment section down there. Or you can email me at gmail at miniwarzone@gmail.com. I'll leave a link in the video description below. Or you can put a question to me in a video yourself. If you do, like, I don't know, Q&As or chat ramble type videos, you can ask me a question in that, like Spider666 does. I don't have one for him this week, but you know, it's another way of doing it, provided I see it, so my computer will notify me when you put that video up. Anyway, I need to be more this side. I need to be more centralised. Don't have my glasses on because they're outside. I'm trapped at home because I've got scaffolding like around the house that's like, and I'm kind of waiting for deliveries to come for building materials. I don't know, tiles, that kind of thing, you know. So anyway, I have no emails, no other questions other than the comments or questions that were left on the video from last week. So I've got 2 sheets of paper. If I'd done the fonts one, I could have probably got it on 1, but I have 2 sheets of paper here, and I'm debating whether to go in order or reverse order or what. I'll just go in order here. So the first comment, or question rather, let's get my coffee, is from the Wargamer Viking, and he said, "What are your opinions on airbrushes versus paintbrush debate? Thank you. Peace." My opinions? Well, I don't think airbrushes are kind of versus hand brushes. I think they're as an addition to. So they're just another tool that you can employ in your painting techniques. And like the hand brushing, there are many different techniques you can employ to get good effects. Now, an obvious advantage of airbrushing is you can do loads of models or big coverage area, you know, in very short time, and you make real quick work of it. So there's that aspect of it. That's at the bottom end of airbrushing. And also it leaves a lovely finish as well, a nice smooth finish. There's no brush strokes or anything. Like if you're doing tanks and that kind of thing, that's kind of handy there, or buildings and that. But then, if you get, when you start to get a little bit more experience with it, or you find out by accident, as I did, you can create effects. Sometimes when your airbrush needs cleaning badly, it starts spitting the paint out, and I noticed by accident that this left quite a good effect on one of my bits of scenery, I think it was. Spitting the paint, and it kind of created a great weathering effect, and I decided to change up to a more weathering type colour, and it was, I can't even remember what the model was now, but yeah, it was great. I obviously cleaned my airbrush since then, but then you've got the finer ones and the like my Badger Chrome, and well, you get really fine lines, and I've switched out to a different needle as well. Once you get to know your airbrush, it's fine. But there's nothing you can do with an airbrush that you can't do with a normal brush. It's just that sometimes it makes blending a bit easier, because I'm rubbish at wet blending, for instance, with like 2-brush wet blending. I'm not very good at that. I try, and I always have a go at it still, but I don't, to my mind, I don't seem to get any better at it. So I can airbrush it nice and easy. I can do a nice blend with airbrushing in as many different colours as I want. So I just think it's an extra tool to add to you know, whatever you already have, and it's not necessary, but it is kind of cool, and it does save time. So thanks for your question. it's well, also it's kind of, I don't know, it's therapeutic in a different way as well. Sometimes I'm still on the question, I realise, but sometimes I like, say on a on the bench repeat episode, I forego airbrushing a load of miniatures and prime them all by hand. And I often get the question, why are you doing it by hand? Why don't you just airbrush it? It'd be quicker. Yeah, it would, but it's more therapeutic to do it by hand. But then other times, I find it's the opposite. I prefer airbrushing loads of stuff. I'm not one of these ones that will airbrush an infantry model. I'm not into that. Some people are, and that's cool. That's great, but that's just not for me. My primary goal. That's a stupid word. My primary goal for airbrushing is 1, to save time when I'm able, and 2, to cover large areas quickly, and 3, to get a good blending effect, because I think it looks pretty cool. No other reason. But yeah, it's just, it's a handy tool to have, and I could live without one, but I'd rather keep my airbrushes. But I'd always try and save up for an airbrush if I didn't have one. They're not scary, as you might think. Idic Beer said, enjoyed the vid, thanks. If you were to invent something to change the world, what would it be? Now, obviously, I've seen these questions, but I haven't thought about them at all. And some of them has been like nearly a week since I read them. That one only came in 3 days ago, but it's been nearly a week since I read some of them, and I'm like, I haven't thought about this at all. Excuse me. It's been a tiring last 2 or 3 days for me. Okay, if I was to invent something that changed the world, what would it be? See, I could say things like, infinite power sources, like batteries that last forever and that kind of thing. But I think it's already been done, And if you do invent anything like that these days, they're likely to murder you in your sleep anyway. Because honestly, I don't know. Invent something that would change the world. What would it be? Man, I don't know. Invent something. I can't think of anything. Other than things like, I don't know. I can't think of anything that hasn't been invented already or isn't in the process of being invented. I was going to say prosthetics, like prosthetic arms and legs and things like that for people that have lost their limbs. But they're doing that now, and they're getting better and better all the time. And they're even grafting them to the bone, aren't they? And allowing the nerves to so that you can operate your hand by thinking about kind of similar to what you do with your normal hand and that kind of thing. So, no, I really can't think of anything. Some method of transport, perhaps. Maybe a hover transport, like a hover scooter or something like that. It doesn't fly; it just hovers, I don't know, 6 inches off the ground or so, and will take you to wherever you want to go. Something like that. Sorry, I haven't got a better answer for you there. Warforged said, Dust did nice buildings, but I don't get anymore. Maybe get on eBay. Talking about buildings, I was talking about I like the Games Workshop terrain, the buildings and that, but they're always blown up and ruins. It'd be nice to have some intact buildings. So I'm guessing what you mean by that is Dust Tactics did nice buildings. But yeah, I might search. There's some nice MDF ones, but I kind of like the plastic ones as well. The MDF is nice, but you've kind of, if you want to get ultra realistic, kind of got to texture the outside, and I'm a bit lazy when it comes to terrain. Got to be honest. So moving on, got one more on there. I'm not going to answer these in order. I'm going to go to Frost and Fists, who said, another great episode, my friend. For the next one, I present a scenario. Okay. Surprise. Yay. For your... I'll be more surprised. For your birthday, you're getting a ride in the TARDIS. As a lifelong musician, what three artists, musicians, composers, or bands in all of time and space would you want to perform with? Take care, my friend. Wolf Brother Methos. What three artists, musicians, composers, or bands? Well, one, straight away, would be Iron Maiden. I know they're still going, yeah. But Iron Maiden, in what to me was their heyday, on their, when Power Slave had just come out, so the World Slavery Tour. You all know that one? You all seen Live After Death, those of you that are into Iron Maiden. I would like to perform with Iron Maiden back then. Because I was a kid then, and I looked longingly at the videotape. I used to play it every day, apart from weekends. Even then, sometimes I watch it. But every day, and I wanted to be Steve Harris on the bass guitar, running around the stage playing bass. Obviously, years later, when actually I was doing that, I still think back and think, oh, I'd love to have played with Iron Maiden back then, when they were all wearing questionable clothing and had questionable hairstyles. But I still had hair back then, long hair. So Iron Maiden is one. Who else would I would love to perform with Queen. That would have been awesome. Can you imagine that? Yeah, at their peak. So we've got Iron Maiden, Queen. Composer maybe. Difficult. Maybe musician Edward Van Halen, because he is and in his heyday as well, because he was actually he learned piano. He was a trained pianist, so he could play piano. Never had a single lesson in his life on guitar. I kid you not. So there's something about him that I would like to. There's something about his mannerisms. He encapsulated a kind of sense of having fun whilst playing a gig, because the playing for him was not an effort at all. It was effortless, so he could concentrate more on enjoying himself. If you watch their concerts, something like Live Without a Net, look that one up. See his performance in that. He is enjoying himself, really enjoying himself. So yeah, I would like to perform with him or meet up with him. Yeah, but definitely Eddie Van Halen. Probably just he and I in his studio going through recording some stuff, laying out some jams, and yeah, because he could just make stuff up. And I'm quite good at making stuff up too. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what we could come up with between us. Plus he would make me sound awesome. Right, now I'm going to go back to Peter Higgins. Peter Higgins says, great vid as always. Well, thank you, Peter. He says, questions. Have you seen the new prologue video for the upcoming Inquisitor movie? And if so, what did you think? And then in brackets, Warp Gazer channel on YouTube. I'm not affiliated in any way. Then after that he says, also, I'm assuming you have passed your driving test. If so, how many tries did you take and what was your first banger? Well, I'll answer that one first because it's easier. Passed my driving test first time after having 15 lessons. And I had literally had my 15th driving lesson. I know this because it's ingrained into my brain. I had my 15th driving lesson, and on that lesson I drove to the testing station, and then my driving instructor sort of got out. We signed in, and he waited for me. And I went and had my test and passed. And he said, I knew you could do it because you're a good little driver there. I was good at driving. I took to it like a duck to water. My first car I had, though, it wasn't actually that much of a banger by those kind of standards. It was a Fiat Strada 65 CL. So it was a 1300 overhead valve, but it was a V registration, the old V registration, which at the time wasn't bad for a first car. It was pretty good, better than a lot of my mates were getting. Like, they were getting knackered out Escorts and things like that. And but my Fiat Strada, I was happy with it. It was a good car. I had something like, I don't know, about 70 odd thousand miles on the clock when I got it, which is low for that first car. Right, then we're going to go back to your other question, which is about the Inquisitor movie. Now, someone else has asked me about that as well. I'm just looking through here. It was Tattoo for You. Yeah, as part of his question, he said, have you seen the Lord Inquisitor prologue that was released last weekend? It's the first 8 minutes of the movie, and the Marines look awesome. And then he has another part of the question. So I'm going to answer both your questions in that. What do I think of it? Well, actually, I saw this question come up. I'm kind of dreading answering it, to be honest. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Warhammer world and the universe. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I'm going to say it's crap, and I'm not. You're thinking he's leading up to saying it's rubbish. Let's kill him. Let's all make effigies and stab him in the eyes. No. But let me say my piece first. I love the Warhammer universe, the 40k universe, and the thought of a movie that would allow me to envision that how I want to would be amazing. It would be amazing. And yes, I've seen it. And I look at it and yeah, that's great. Part of me, there's that little part of my brain that says, are you only liking this because it's Warhammer? Because you liked... We're going to talk about this. Right, you all remember this. Now, this got slated. Absolutely slated. At least from where I was standing. Ultramarines, the Warhammer 40,000 movie. I liked it, but... And then you compare this with, like, the prologue of what's been released on YouTube. And yes, the one on YouTube I would say is better, like animation wise and that, but, and I have some buts, it's not as good as I would hope it would be. Now, before you all rush off and unsubscribe me or hate me or dislike me or whatever, let me explain first. No, I don't. I think what I've seen of the trailer, it looks great. But I've got some buts, some concerns. I mean, they've been doing this for 6 years, and I think they're running into a problem here. Now, this came out like 2009, 2010 when it was released. So it's 7 years. It's 7 years more advanced than this, so it should be way better than this. Right, and I think people now. What I've gone back and I've watched this again and I've had a look at it, and when you watch it, there's a lot of I don't know what the exact terminology would be, but basically it's like they're saving money on not doing as detailed a background and that kind of thing. But when they zoom in up close on like their helmets or whatever, it's pretty detailed. I think it's pretty detailed. It's pretty good. Skin pores and whatever else, and dare I say it, it has one element which is better than the prologue I've seen on YouTube, right? And that is the lip sync, the animation of talking when they're animating the mouths and the movements looks more convincing than the Lord Inquisitor one does. That said, that might not be the finished article that we're watching on YouTube. It could be, or it could be, you know, changes in dialogue and they haven't had time to adjust the word. But what I think their problem lies is, and you know, before you all rush off saying, but it's fan made, you know, it's a funded film. But before you all rush on that, I'll come to that in a minute. Don't lose my thread. Grab onto my thread. What was I saying? I've forgotten. Hang on. Yes, got it. I think their problem is he's trying to too much of a perfectionist all the way, and it's just going to take too long to do. It's a bit like writing a book. When you write a novel, you can't painstakingly worry over each and every word or every sentence to try and make it perfect. You just got to bang it out there, then go back and polish it up. So that's what I don't know what techniques they employ to do that, and it's been a long time since I did my media course, but I did animation it was a small part of it, and of course animation has come on huge leaps and bounds since the time I did it. And no, I wouldn't be able to do anything like the Lord Inquisitor movie now, but from what I've seen of it, the thing like with the marches through the streets and the dreadnoughts and all that, it looks fantastic. It does, but it should do, because it's 7 years more advanced than this. Let's not forget, like I said, this got slated, but I don't know why. I don't think it's that bad. It's a bit of a dull story, I'll give it that. It's a bit of a dull story. Ultramarines, it's basically they land on a planet, and it's basically just them wandering around for 40 minutes or however long it is, and a little fight at the end. But you know, the Lord Inquisitor movie, it's got such good detail, but it worries me that they're taking too long over it, and they do need to sort that lip sync the dialogue. I think that's just me. I know I sound like a miserable old git saying that, but I do, and I am excited for it. I am. So that's my thoughts on it. Just what I think. The whole fan-made thing, you could say that about Star Wars now, because, you know, the makers of Star Wars, they're all fans. You could say they're fan-made films. They are, because it's come on. The years have passed, and it's kind of like the torch of enthusiasm has been handed down decade and decade again to the new generation of filmmakers and producers. Now George Lucas has kind of sold it off to Disney. You know, who knows? And yeah, and from what little I know, Games Workshop have approved it, and they've got something to do with it. I don't know if it's got anything to do with funding or what, but I know they've given the green light on it, but I mean they'd have to, really, wouldn't they? But yeah, so that's my thoughts on it. I am hugely excited, and I'd love to see a movie like that. But I would want it to be a movie. See, I'd be happy with just an animated cartoon series like they did with Star Wars. That would suit me. You could knock that out at a much reduced budget than the painstaking efforts that they're going to for this. Which, you know, it looks like a good cutscene from a game to me. But that's just my thoughts. But I'm not holding my breath, because it's, like I say, it's been 6 years in production already. But I think it will happen. But yeah, jury's out on that one. I'll wait until it does happen. Right. So yeah. So I've answered you, Peter Higgins, and then that leaves me with the last question. from Tattoo For You, because he asked about that Lord Inquisitor movie as well. But then he said, what is your ultimate career? Not say a hobby into a job, but something you'd love to make a living doing and still have the gaming hobby as an escape. Filmmaking, directing, ultimately, the ultimate pinnacle of, well, I've always wanted to be a director. Never got the chance. That's not to say I would have made it anyway, had I the chance, but it would have been nice to try. But yes, I'd like to be... Oh, I've got to get my legs down here now, because... pins and needles. Got them in the lower half already, but when it starts seeping up to the top, I know I need to change positions. Right, yeah, so, yeah, filmmaking. I enjoy sound and camera work. I didn't enjoy producing, which I know you probably have to do for a while before you became director, but producing is actually... The producer is a harder job, I think, in my humble opinion. And the only thing I've ever made is a 3.5 minute advert, which is a long advert, for the the Heart Foundation, as part of my final dissertation for my media degree. Obviously we made it as there's a group of us, so I had staff, and I directed that, and that was brilliant, lovely fun. But on someone else's project I was producer. A lot more hard work. Whew, I wouldn't want to be a producer. Don't like producing, but I love directing. But anyway, yeah, so something in the film industry, Richard, would be my answer to you there. That's just a dull, overcast day, and I've got to end this now. This has been my little kind of bubble of joy in an otherwise dull day, and I've got to go back to reality now, and that sucks. I haven't even finished my coffee yet, but that's all the questions. If you've got any more questions, just pop them down below, or email me, or ask me in a video, whatever, but as long as I know. And I'll answer them next week for you. Anyway, I'm recording this on Friday, like I usually do, and you will be watching this on Monday or later on next week. For me next week, this week for you. So it remains me to say, have a good rest of your week. Have a good start to your week. Have a good rest of the week. Have a good day. Take care. Drive carefully and all that kind of good stuff. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye for now.